For over 400 years, the armies of Kyros the Overlord have swept across the known world.
The war is over, the rebels are crushed, and evil rules the world. But here's the twist. You're the one helping them accomplish it. This is Tyranny, where justice isn't black and white, it's written in blood. The story takes place in the Tiers, the last region to be conquered by the powerful overlord Kyros. Most of the inhabitants of the Tiers are powerless to prevent the marauding megalomaniac and have a decision to make, either join forces or face death. As the game's main protagonist, you chose the former and became a Fatebinder, a powerful agent of Kyros who acts as a kind of deadly civil servant. Instead of a cheap suit and a clipboard, you get chainmail and a sword, much more persuasive. Kyros' armies are split into several factions, the main two being the Disfavoured, a disciplined and regimented fighting force of highly organised professional soldiers, and the Scarlet Chorus, who are a ragtag bunch of savages who have their own way of solving things, which usually means bludgeoning each other to death. As a Fatebinder, you've been tasked with settling a dispute between two generals from the Disfavoured and the Scarlet Chorus. It's classic Obsidian, morally complex, filled with sharp dialogue, and written like a political thriller dressed in Bronze Age fantasy. There's no good versus evil here, just shades of power, loyalty and self-interest. If you've ever wished your dialogue choices had real teeth, Tyranny delivers. Every line feels like it carries weight, and sometimes you'll wish it didn't. You start in a prologue called The Conquest, a choose-your-own adventure where your decisions as Kyros' judge, jury and occasional volcano summoner shape the entire world before the main game even begins. Spare a rebel town, they'll greet you as a hero later. Slaughter them, expect pitchforks, or at least dirty looks. The narrative explores evil not as a cartoonish villainy, but the banality of it, enforcing edicts, picking between rival armies who both serve the same tyrant. Choices ripple everywhere. Towns rebuild or stay ash, factions ally or betray, companions react with grudging respect or horror. It's morally grey in a way that makes you question your own ruthlessness. Writing is Obsidian at its sharpest. Dense lore, witty banter and consequences that hit like a spiked mace. Only gripe, the final act rushes like it ran out of edicts. Still, in a genre full of farm boy saviours, this is refreshingly tyrannical.
Ha! Fatebinder! Here at last. Care to join me in putting these cowards out of their misery?
Tyranny starts out in a pretty interesting fashion. You play through a short kind of text-based adventure, setting the scene for what is to come, and setting the mould for the political setup of the world. How you tackle these text-based quests will determine your standing in the world, and once complete, you're plunged into the game proper. The game is set on a series of small levels, navigable by an overworld map. On your route to a new section, Tyranny goes old school and throws in random encounters. Something I haven't seen in an RPG for a while, and I can't decide if that's a good or bad thing. Anyway, travelling will take time, and time is something you have a finite amount of. And for that you can thank your boss Kyros, as he gives you an edict to read out, and once read you only have a set amount of time to complete his bidding before you and everyone in the area is fired. And by fired, I mean literally incinerated. He could have gone down the route of pay rises and Employee of the Month awards, but instead opted for certain death, which in fairness is more motivating. I'm not usually a fan of having to do stuff in a set amount of time in video games. Like a good meal, I like to savour what's on offer and take my time to enjoy everything. But I will give Tyranny a free pass here, as it's a really integral part of the story. You only play certain chunks of the game in this manner, and the time limits are generous. So rather than taking away from the experience, which is often the case, here it enhances it. Certain doom hanging over your head creates a foreboding atmosphere that sits right at home with the game's themes. You often find RPGs tend to favour either combat or dialogue. Of course there are games that have excelled in both, but usually it's clear to see what the devs favour, and Tyranny is no exception on this front. The huge branching dialogue trees are the star of the show. You're given a large amount of choice in the way that you can respond in a given situation, and choosing your words with caution is a wise move here, as what you say really alters the way the game plays out. There are thousands of lines of dialogue, and luckily it's well written and keeps you engaged with its wit and descriptive flow. Of course, if you prefer your games with more stabby and less gabby, then you might find Tyranny a touch less accessible. There is a lot of reading to do, and not much of the game is voice acted. However, Tyranny does provide you with some entertaining combat. Although it's not as honed or substantial as the dialogue system, everything is here. You have a classless skill-based progression system where your character's abilities are determined by which skills you use and the talent trees you invest in. At the start of the game, you choose a background and a primary, secondary expertise, including options like soldier, hunter, guild apprentice, etc., which provides starting bonuses to certain skills and influences dialogue options, but this does not lock you into a specific playstyle for the rest of the game, which is nice. Combat is played out via a real-time combat system with pause. If you've played Pillars of Eternity or Final Fantasy XII among others, you'll get the picture. If not, you get to move around the battlefield freely and use your attacks and spells when the cooldown meter has completed. I wasn't blown away by the combat on offer in Tyranny, but I did find it enjoyable. Using some well-timed abilities to inflict status effects on enemies and teaming up with other party members to finish them off was quite satisfying. As the main character, you get a decent amount of spells and abilities to invest in. Some give you a completely new ability, while others change and enhance existing ones. Your other party members get a more pared down selection, but it can still be fun playing with this more select bunch of skills. Progression is handled in a similar way to Oblivion. The more you do a certain thing, the more that skill increases. Attack someone with a bow, your bow skill levels up. Attack from stealth and up goes your subterfuge. You can also purchase new levels in some skills with trainers you bump into on your travels. They will allow you to use rings, the game's currency, to train up to 5 levels in a given tree. In addition to improving your weapon-based skills, when you gain a level, you can increase your base stats like strength, athleticism, etc. To further enhance your offense and defense, you can create new spells by collecting sigils and combining them in a spell creation interface. A core sigil like fire, frost or illusion determines the spell's element, and an expression sigil determines its shape and target like a ball or a cone. You can further customise spells with accent sigils to modify their effects, range or accuracy. The magic in Tyranny does lack a bit of spectacle, and I couldn't help but feel a little underwhelmed, but it's there and it does the job. As you progress on your mission as Kyros' envoy, you'll come across a decent selection of new weapons, armour and consumables. Again, nothing particularly new or exciting here, it's all present and correct, just don't expect anything too exciting. If Tyranny does make a misstep, it's in the final throes of the game. You gain a key item very late in the day, and your adventure ends fairly abruptly after that. However, I didn't find it too much of an issue. Plot threads are mainly resolved, but it felt like one of those occasions where you thought you had an appointment at 2:30, but turns out it was at 2 o'clock and you just drop everything and dash out the door. Obsidian definitely had somewhere else to be. I don't know if the cash ran out or just time, but it does appear the end was a touch rushed. The gameplay loop in Tyranny is generally an enjoyable one. Its choice-heavy scenarios give you plenty to think about, and the presented options have a decent amount of impact on your game. Combat is serviceable and mostly fun. It lacks a bit of the depth of some of its peers, but the choice-based dialogue system is front and centre here. Gameplay scores 21 out of 25.
Know this scent. Stench of blood, sweat, battle, iron and death. Smells like alpha. Smells of strength. But it's male.
So, let's be honest, Tyranny isn't exactly a showstopper. It uses the same isometric engine as Pillars of Eternity, with pre-rendered backgrounds and stylised environments, but while it won't melt your GPU, it's a visually cohesive experience. The art direction leans heavily on bronze, red and parchment tones, perfectly matching the game's themes of conquest and decay. The game has a fair amount of variety in its landscapes, holding your attention well. Characters are distinct and expressive, though animations are minimal, and spell effects feel a bit understated compared to flashier modern CRPGs. It gets the job done, no more, no less. I did feel like a bit more camera control would have been nice. In some more hectic battles it was tricky to see where some of my characters were and which enemy I was targeting, but this issue didn't raise its head too often and didn't spoil my fun, just marred it a little. Performance was good during my time with the game. My rigs, specs in the description if you're interested, handled the game flawlessly. I didn't experience experience any frame rate dips or frame pacing hiccups, and I don't recall the game crashing at all. As you only have a small section of the game on screen at any one time, things like pop-in were never an issue. In RPGs, it's pretty important that the UI is legible and well set out, and Tyranny is partially successful on this front. The UI is a bit on the ugly side, and some of it feels cramped. It's not terrible, and I think most players will be able to find what they need, but it could have been better for sure. Graphically, Tyranny is okay. It's pretty good at conveying the desired atmosphere. The art direction is doing the heavy lifting here. The visuals won't make you recoil in horror, but they're more workmanlike than noteworthy, and score 19 out of 25.
As is our custom, we are ready to kill to defend our lands, but we kill only in fair battle. We don't slay our prisoners. We know this isn't Kyros' way, but we must have hope.
The sound design in Tyranny is excellent, with the music doing the heavy lifting here. The tracks accompanying you on your adventure are perfectly in step with the action and create an excellent atmosphere. The melancholic tracks bring to mind the misery of the defeated and downtrodden inhabitants brilliantly, and ramp up into some rousing anthems when things get more action oriented. Justin Bell, the man responsible for the soundtrack, deserves a pat on the back for this. It's some of the best music to be found in video games, full stop. The rest of the audio package is not as commendable, but still manages to do a great job of world building. The clatter of swords and armour in large scale battles all sound great and add a sense of being there. The chatter of a campsite or town breathes life into the settings. It's all very atmospheric. The only weak link here is voice acting, or rather the lack of. I understand why the majority of lines are not voiced. There's thousands of them, and it probably would have been prohibitively expensive, but it's a shame a bit more of the game wasn't voiced. The writing is excellent, and it would have really hit home that atmosphere and created a greater bond between player and characters. What is here is good though. Despite the sparse voice acting, audio remains a highlight in Tyranny and scores 23 out of 25.
You call yourselves officers of Kyros' army, but your conduct falls short of my expectations. The court finds your accounts of Vendrian's well lacking, rife with misdirection and fallacy, fouled with baseless accusation.
Tyranny is not a particularly long game, coming in at around 25 hours for a single playthrough. However, to get the most out of the game, multiple playthroughs are going to be required. The game is so dense with choice that curiosity is bound to get the better of you, and you'll want to know what happens if you side with a different faction or stab someone in the back that you previously helped, or vice versa. The 4 endings are variable depending on your faction allegiances and companion arcs, so there's plenty of juice to squeeze out for completionists. And if you still haven't had enough tyrannical shenanigans after completing the base game, there are some DLCs available that further expand on the game world. Bastard's Wound and Tales from the Tears pad out that rushed ending and introduce some new companion quests. But if you don't want to splash the cash on these extras, the base game is going to provide a decent bit of value. Tyranny can often be found very cheaply nowadays. I picked up my copy for £13, roughly $17. Value gets 22 out of 25.
Beast women are savage hunters, bred to fight Kirot, like Fatebinder who smells of alpha.
Tyranny is a fascinating, flawed gem. It's bold, intelligent, and refreshingly different. An RPG that forces you to question not just what kind of hero you are, but whether you're one at all. The story hooks you, the choices matter, and the world feels alive with consequence. Sure, the visuals are a touch dated and the ending stumbles a bit, but the journey there is one of the most intriguing in the RPG genre. If you've ever wondered what happens after evil wins, well, Tyranny has your answer. Overall, Tyranny scores 85 out of 100.
A wise general succeeds by knowing when to be unreadable to the enemy.